Get the Angel Reese special at McDonald's now. Let's break it down. My favorite barbecue sauce, American cheese, crispy bacon, pickles, onions, and a sesame seed bun, of course. And don't forget the fries and a drink. Sound good? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating restaurants for a limited time.
When you check out at the pharmacy, you see the journey from idea to medicine, thanks to our intellectual property system, or IP for short. IP safeguards inventions, like a new way to prevent seizures or lower cholesterol. And IP supports competition from other brands, then lower cost generics, which are 90% of prescriptions filled in the US. Innovation, competition, lower costs, thanks to IP. Learn more at phrma.org/IP works wonders.
Hey, I'm Candice Lim.
And I'm Lindsay, and you're listening to ICYMI.
In case you missed it.
Slate's podcast about internet culture.
And Kate, how are you doing today?
Well, elephant in the room. I sound like there's an elephant in my nose.
Sure, yeah.
Listen, it's a cold that just hasn't gone away. This is my first injury as a podcast co-host. Normally, this does not matter. I threw every remedy against what's happening here today. Didn't work. Here we are. And now, even better, I've set up my little at-home studio, which is good for not spreading germs, but bad because it does mean two cats are here and in the background, perhaps during certain parts in this episode. But more importantly than me is Love Island. Candice, did you watch Love Island UK?
Well, I mean, it really depends, because I've got to be honest, right now, not in the rotation. I'm a little busy with traitors, but I'm assuming you're
totally
part of the
feel you. But listen, if you're ever a little bit sick, the most recent season of Love Island All Stars, I would really recommend binging. So the main season, like in Love Island US, airs in the summer. But over the past 2 winters, the UK has debuted this all-star season for the winter, where sort of iconic former contestants, they come back for a second or sometimes third try at love. So this season's all-stars just finished up. As you can imagine, though, just as much drama happened online as it did on the screen.
Yeah. I think this concept is so funny. It's very someone you matched with in 2019 rematching you in 2025 and being like, oh, so we both failed Love Island? Got it. We're back.
Because they all already know each other. Like, even if they don't actually know each other, they all know of each other. It's a very different dynamic.
Exactly. And what's funny is I may not be watching Love Island All Stars, but can I just say it definitely has made it to my TikTok For You page, because like I'm seeing so many fan cams of someone named Grace.
Oh, yeah.
Do you like her? I think she's coupling up with Luca Bish, the boy who sells fish.
Yes, great. I love Grace. Grace does a really good like dressing down of Luca at one point when he, does something a little not good. But their official ship name, if you'd like to really be in the know, is Gruka. Unfortunately.
Okay, now.
And yeah, that fandom is wild. But I, of course, tuned in for my queen, Ekin-Su, who won her season of Love Island. A partner at that time was Davide Saclamenti. You might remember him as the person who called Ekin-Su a liar and an actress.
Oh, that season was good. That season was good. It raised an empress. I mean, I truly mean this. Ekin-Su, to me, she is the Boston Rob of Love Island UK, okay? Like, the way that people associate their love of Survivor with their love of Rob, I associate Love Island with Ekin-Su. She is perfect to me.
Yes, and speaking of, she has also been on The Traitors. Not Ekin-Su, my baby. What was it? What was the thing?
Phaedra? Phaedra being like, not Ekin-Su.
Not Ekin-Su.
Oh, my Lord, sweet baby Jesus. Not Ekin-Su. Lord, not Ekin-Su.
Yeah, she is queen no matter where she goes. She's kind of a reality TV legend. And so when she went on All Stars, like, it was a huge deal. She was the first big bombshell. She immediately coupled up with Curtis Pritchard, who's from an earlier season. They were kind of the weird theater kids off to the side. Curtis does a lot of dancing. And you could kind of tell that the other contestants weren't necessarily vibing with them. Right. So they kind of became a fan favorite couple because of that. Like, they were like the weird kids. But Davide, however, did not like seeing Ekin-Su get her flowers.
First off, Davide, why are you watching? If you knew If you knew that your ex, who you are publicly not with anymore, in fact, maybe you guys have, broken up officially twice?
Yep.
If you knew they were going back on the show, why would you watch unless to self-torture? However, I need to know how Davide is still putting his name in this conversation.
Well, yeah, especially because you'd think you'd really stay out of it because of what Ekin said about the relationship. She's alleged some pretty, bad manipulative behavior in their relationship. Sure. So to the Love Island community in general, he is not that popular. And seeing Ekin go back on Love Island, and she's been so adored the second time, and it seems to have kind of sent him spiraling because he's been posting lots of little just jabs at her online. And that has not gone over well with fans, particularly the ones on the Love Island TV subreddit.
Ooh, I love those girls. I am one of those girls, but it's Davide, be real. We were all going to choose Ekin-Su in the breakup.
Yeah, how could you not? And this subreddit, it is legit. I once interviewed them for my newsletter a few years ago, and before they would talk to me, I had to verify my identity with them, which no other place has ever asked me to do. But there are just so many, bad actors out there. The UK tabloids are really intense. They wanted to be really sure who they were talking to. And so, they're not just going to be easily swayed by a couple of Instagram jabs. Nobody in the sub is buying Davide's attempts at Ekin-Su disparaging. They're all team Ekin-Su on God. But he posted a note. It was a screenshot of a note on Instagram accusing the entire subreddit of running a defamation campaign against him.
Oh, my God.
Even though, like I said, the truth just seems to be people on there just don't like him.
Yeah, it's very Mad Men. I don't think about you at all.
Right. They're not thinking about him, except he says he was sent, quote, a mountain of proof that there's this sort of coordinated campaign happening. But the mods posted this statement and they were just no, if content about Davide was removed, it was because it went against our guidelines, our policies. Honestly, people also in the thread were just theorizing that maybe Davide doesn't understand how downvoting works. So he's going onto Reddit and seeing that nice things about him are getting all this negativity. And he's it's collusion, but that's just how Reddit works. If you're downvoting someone, they're going to get pushed further down the feed and won't be seen as much.
Yeah, I like that you're bringing up the rules because I think something that public figures have a really hard time understanding is that subreddits, even if they are literally called their government name, they are not for them. The rules, and the thing is sometimes celebrities, when they try to jump to the convo, like Davide trying to literally use that subreddit against Ekin-Su, it's Davide, these rules aren't for you, but you think that you can bypass the rules for some reason, and that's not even what this is, because the real issue is, Davide, no one is manipulating anything. People just don't really like you. And even worse, they don't care about you.
I know. And maybe he figured this out because it looks like the post that he, put up with all these allegations is down now. Meanwhile, Ekin is living her best life. But I think it's notable that when the post did go up, it was the same day that Ekin was in the All-Stars finale. And so people kind of think the real purpose wasn't really to get any justice. It was just to pull focus from Ekin-Su having a day where the attention was on her, which is nasty and just even weirder because he hard launched a new girlfriend. And Ekin hasn't said his name in months. She didn't mention him on the show. Move on.
Move on. So weird. But I would say even weirder is that this was not the only instance last week of a public figure accusing a subreddit of targeting them.
Right. And my big fear is this seems to be becoming a trend. It's trendy to do.
I think it hits particularly close to home because, Kate, the same way you love the Love Island subreddit, I am loyal to the Fauxmoi subreddit, who has also been battling accusations of defamation, in this case from YouTuber and podcaster Ethan Klein. And I want to get into that, but first, let's take a break. After the break, let's dive into Ethan Klein's public feud with Fauxmoi and why we think public figures and creators are starting to fire back at snark pages. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. You often hear about the red flags that should be avoided, but what if you focused more on looking for green flags in friends and partners? If you're not sure what they look like, therapy can help you identify green flags, actively practice them in your relationships, and embody the green flag energy yourself. Whether you're dating, married, building a friendship, or just working on yourself, it's time to form relationships that love you back. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient, serving over 5 million people worldwide. Access a diverse network of more than 30,000 credentialed therapists with a wide range of specialties. You can easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. Therapy is helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/ICYMI today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ICYMI.
Oh, ICYMI listeners, do I have a scoop for you? So what is it, you ask? It's that Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Now, before anyone goes suggesting that this is just a rumor, know that there's actual proof that this kettle of tea is not only piping hot, but 100% true. So, yeah, sometimes it pays to be a little nosy, but it always pays to discover. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report, learn more at discover.com/creditcard.
Hey there! If you love our podcast, then maybe you should consider subscribing to Slate Plus to immediately unlock bonus episodes. You'll access ad-free listening across all your favorite Slate podcasts, including bi-weekly bonus episodes of this show. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts by clicking Try Free at the top of our show page, or visit slate.com/ICYMI Plus to get access wherever you listen. And we're back. Kate, how much do you know about Ethan Klein?
So I only came to Ethan through Trisha Paytas, which they had that podcast called Frenemies. Mm-hmm. And I loved Frenemies, but once that ended, I don't know, I wasn't interested in keeping up with Ethan. Similarly to how I chose Ekin, I also chose Trisha in that divorce.
Yeah. I love that you're bringing up the podcast because the reason it ended was also messy. Even more messy. Trisha is like married to Ethan's brother-in-law. Did you know this?
I did, but it took me a long time to learn that it was actually through they met through a weird fake bachelor that H3 was doing in COVID. I don't know. And now they're together and that's a whole other drama.
It's a whole other drama, but I kind of want to quickly explain who we are talking about today. Ethan Klein. He is married to Hila Klein. They are a married couple. They run H3 Productions. I think it's supposed to look like he written out, like H for Hila, E for Ethan. Anyway, they are most known for hosting the H3 podcast. It has streamer vibes. It's a little bit of Tiny Meat Gang where they basically sit in a room and they play things from the internet off their laptop and they comment on them. But it's funny that we're starting with Trisha Paytas because I really do think that Ethan has kind of reached Trisha's notoriety online, meaning Trisha is known for being a divisive figure in the space, but she's undeniably A-list internet famous. Ethan is also controversial and he's a prominent YouTuber. I definitely would not say he is a prominent celebrity in the mainstream definition at all.
Right. I feel he only ever rises to my consciousness when he's part of a duo that makes him interesting. So there was Trisha. And then more recently, he and Hassan Piker, they had a podcast. That podcast also imploded, which interesting trend here.
I know. And Hassan Piker is a Twitch streamer who was publicly friends with Ethan, but their friendship fell apart because of some feelings around the war in Gaza. And Ethan's wife, Hila, is from Israel, while Hassan is vocally pro-Palestine. And I'm not saying that Ethan is anti-Palestine. He has repeatedly said that he supports a free Palestine. He's donated money. But his perspective on the situation is different than Hassan's. This was frustrating to Hassan, but also Hassan's community, who Ethan says came after him with anti-Semitic attacks. And he claims Hassan should have done a better job of moderating.
And when you hear that, that sounds totally reasonable. But I don't know, the situation between Israel and Palestine is so charged, and both Ethan and Hassan's fandoms are also just super passionate, that somehow this just continued to escalate to the point that Ethan has been, in my opinion, kind of crashing out online in a way that is not in line with reality.
Yeah, case in point, what happened on Fauxmoi. Now, you and I have mentioned Fauxmoi upwards of 6 times this year already. Yeah. It's a constant conversation amongst us. And Fauxmoi is a subreddit offshoot of DeuxMoi, which is the Instagram account where people will send in blind items about celebrities. They are unverified claims, But I would say that sometimes they are very deeply believed. And I would also say that the Fauxmoi subreddit is kind of like the filtered, curated denouement. So people go on there to kind of like figure out who the blind items are about. And I would also say it's kind of like a general celebrity pop culture subreddit for headlines that would intrigue that population.
Right. It's like there are sometimes blind items on the subreddit, but it's a lot more about discussing news that's verified from like actual headlines. And then there's sort of these offset threads about just sort of tea or more unverified. But, you know, it runs the gamut. But the way you're describing this subreddit, it's like, no offense, who is submitting blind items about Ethan Klein? Like, why is Ethan Klein showing up there?
I know. I think the funniest thing is that even if someone did submit a blind item about him, everyone would think it's someone else, like a literal more famous YouTuber or podcaster, and he just would never get the hits. But this is interesting because I wonder if that is Ethan Klein's fear, because the inciting incident that probably led to this episode is that a few weeks ago, Ethan's wife, Hila, she posted an IG story of an email from an artist who declined to work with her. And all the artist wrote in this email was, quote, "I'm sorry, I can't be associated with this company." Now, they never explicitly stated like why they declined, but Hila says it's, quote, "because I'm Israeli." Okay, so someone posts Hila's IG story on Fauxmoi. It becomes a topic of discussion, and the comments pretty much become like a thread of controversial things Ethan and Hila have done or said on camera, not only about Gaza and Palestine, but also like racist things they've said, weird sexual assault jokes they've made about underage girls, allegedly. And Ethan sees this post. He goes on IG stories. He screenshots this exact post, and he calls Fauxmoi a, quote, "neo-Nazi forum."
Right. This is where it's like, wait, I've lost the plot here. Because I watched this live stream and he keeps being like, what have I ever done to these people? They still haven't said what I've done. And I'm like, they're literally listing what you've done.
Yeah.
Like they're listing all the reasons why someone might be, you know, not interested in being associated with that company. And during that live, he also started issuing some vague threats to a bunch of subreddits because there's also an H3 snark page. But this also includes Fauxmoi. He's saying he's being mass gaslighted, that he says he's never seen anyone in the history of the internet be harassed like this, which is like talk to any female creator ever.
Yeah.
He says Russian propagandists would blush at the hate campaign going against us. But then this is where we kind of get to the threats. He's like, a lot of these people think that they're safe, but they will soon find out that they are not safe. And he is preparing stuff and working behind the scenes. And then he goes on to quote Donald Trump, which he kind of does it jokingly, but it's also like interesting. He goes, "Stand back and stand by," which is something Trump said about white supremacists. He says, "Stand back and stand by because there's something in the works that I just can't wait for." He also said, "We'll get him, guys. We'll get him. You know me. I'll ruin my fucking life in the pursuit of getting these people. I can't wait. I can't wait to show you guys what we're working on."
First off, you know Ethan is a YouTuber because that's a type of language that like influencers use when they can't tell you they're about to drop a makeup palette. And then they're like, I can't talk about it.
They're like, "Oh my God, I'm sorry to be like this, but I just can't tell you.
Can't show you guys."
Yeah.
And then it's literally like one eyeshadow and you're kind of like, well, thank you so much. Second, I mean, seemingly gearing up to come after them with lawyers, maybe for defamation, and most recently, Fauxmoi was hit with a harassment warning from Reddit. Like, that seems to be what he's going for.
That was crazy because the narrative being pushed is that Fauxmoi is and has been orchestrating some kind of elaborate and coordinated takedown of Ethan and H3. He specifically refers to the moderators at Fauxmoi as, quote, "a network of sock puppet accounts," which is bananas because I actually spoke with the main Fauxmoi moderator on the phone over the weekend for an interview for my newsletter Embedded. And this moderator is a college student from Canada.
Literally not a sock puppet. And I have to say, Kate, I am starstruck because I have admired this mod's work for years, daily. What was that conversation like?
Oh my gosh. I was like, oh my gosh, who is this going to be? Who is this going to be? And when what greets me on the phone, this is like a late night conversation on Friday, is literally a college student and a very stressed college student. One of the first things they said was that they had had about 5 hours sleep in the past 2 days. And they gave me kind of a good statement from Fauxmoi's perspective on what happened that I'll read. They said, "Most of us mods, at least the ones who have been active throughout this saga, knew and still know very little about Ethan or what he does. We had no intention of addressing any of the brigading and harassment. He's one of hundreds of public figures that get posted to the sub every week. And to be frank, a YouTube influencer is not really on our radar.
Say that.
I know. After his post comparing this subreddit to neo-Nazis, the users of the sub, of their own accord, proceeded to submit a barrage of posts regarding his history of racism, anti-Semitism, sexualization of young girls, which, again, contrary to what some are saying, is not out of the ordinary for us to approve. Klein has repeatedly questioned why he's being posted on the sub as he is a, quote, YouTuber, seemingly unaware that posts about YouTubers and influencers have been shared on the sub since its inception. Dumois herself is an influencer. Moreover, pro-Palestine / anti-Zionist content, no matter how obscure, is also often submitted to the sub. He is not special in that regard.
Jesus. I mean, even from this statement, I can kind of hear like this whole situation with the subreddit has caused this moderator you talk to. I mean, the reason why I empathize with them is because, like, reminder, most moderators of subreddits, they do it unpaid.
Right.
Like, moderators, they volunteer to do this probably for fun, just to like bridge community. And now they have to deal with like whatever this is.
I know, that's all I could think about is that this is a college student who is, going to classes all day and then having to come home and deal with like legal threats from a YouTuber. And they're getting nothing from it except harassment online. Like, I know they did manage to get in contact with Reddit about what's happening, and they are now in communication. But apparently that's been a really slow process.
Yeah, like Reddit should be stepping in to mediate this and or maybe provide legal support. But I think this is an instance of like a very early internet concept, moderating a forum, quickly growing into something we never could have anticipated.
Especially in the current political environment, these self-policed online communities are even more important to free speech. After the break, we'll talk more about the real rise of these threats and ways to push back as attempts at online censorship go mainstream.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can be a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill, too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help find you options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
We're so done with new year, new you. This year, it's more you on Bumble. More of you shamelessly sending playlists, especially that one filled with show tunes. More of you finding Geminis because you know you always like them. More of you dating with intention because you know what you want. And you know what? We love that for you. Someone else will too. Be more you this year and find them on Bumble.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
And we're back. So I think the big question here is, despite these threats, can you sue a subreddit for defamation?
This is a good question because it keeps being threatened, but to kind of figure out if that threat is real, it has to do with something called Section 230, which comes up a lot in discourse and it's relevant here. So Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act of 1996 says that no provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. So basically you can't hold a Reddit mod or Reddit accountable for what's said on it. But something you can do is sue for unfair content moderation. That would mean sort of allowing false or misleadingly positive posts to stay up, but deleting bad, true things. That seems to be what both Ethan and Davide are alluding to in their posts. They're specifically using language that falls within unfair content moderation rather than solely defamation.
Yeah. And the thing that kind of struck us both about Davide and Ethan is that they aren't going after snark subreddits that specifically target them or are about them. They're targeting subreddits that are like really broad, in which like they really only sometimes appear. I really mean it, like not even cracking top 200 character level stuff.
Yeah, like as like the Fauxmoi mod was saying, these men probably make up like a single-digit percentage of conversations in the entire forum, and yet they're acting personally targeted. Meanwhile, if you're not familiar with Reddit, women often are personally targeted by entire subreddits. They have subreddits named after them, and they just kind of have to acknowledge it as part of the job and don't say anything. But I asked the Fauxmoi mod about any other times the sub has faced legal issues, and the biggest one is when Dumois herself filed the copyright infringement claim, and that's what prompted them changing their name from the Dumois subreddit to Fauxmoi. They said they do get legal threats, but if a legal threat is made to them, either, I don't know, through email or mod mail or whatever, they have to inform the person who's raised it that they need to take any legal threats through Reddit admin.
I remember that whole name change saga. It was super interesting. And what's funny is like both Davide and Ethan's claims, they are familiar because they seem inspired by something we keep talking about on the show, which is Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively claims. I mean, accusing someone of manipulating an online environment is now being used to enforce censorship.
I know, I hate it. It's like all the worst people in the world saw that and was like, ooh, new way to be annoying unlocked. And now they're just like parroting all that language. But what's so chilling about all this is that even a couple years ago, someone, raging a campaign about a subreddit saying unfavorable things about them, they'd be kind of branded as like aggressive or unhinged because it's like, you don't have any recourse here. But with the political climate kind of getting more pro-censorship, it's mainstreamed this idea of like, oh, if you kick up enough of a fuss or have enough power, you can leverage that to silence speech that you disagree with. Even people supposedly on the left, which Ethan Klein is progressive.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the Kleins threatening to sue Fauxmoi is so weird to me because as someone who is perusing that subreddit daily for years, I truly less than 5 times have I clicked on a post in that subreddit about them. And if they were to pursue something legally and get Fauxmoi taken down, I'm not even sure how it would work against a subreddit. Like the closest any celebrity has come to like wielding power against Dumois was when Hailey Bieber, she like claimed she knew the real identity of Dumois, but Hailey specifically chose not to reveal their name. She just kind of like said it as a threat, and people started noticing Dumois was like lightening up on Hailey content, not posting negative blinds about her. And I don't know. Let's imagine. What if there was a situation where an influencer sues an online forum like NYC Influencer Snark and either wins or makes the subreddit mods start pulling back and self-censoring?
It would be such a bad precedent because, yes, some of the most abhorrent things are said in NYC Influencer Snark. And as much as I disagree with them, they should be allowed to say them. And yes, Fauxmoi is a gossip forum, but gossip is how information is shared. And it's important because people are trying to silence it. Reddit seems to be Elon Musk's next target because sort of after the true extent of his involvement in the government, more than 100 subreddits banned users from posting links to X kind of in protest. And then, at that same time, he ended up going after a sub called White People Twitter. These posts were deleted, but after the identities of those like really young Doge staffers, young but adults crucially, came out, I guess posts that were deleted for violating terms, but were sort of threatening violence or perhaps, used violent language against Doge staffers. They, people posted them, they were taken down, but that resulted, after Elon went after them, in a 72-hour ban. I mean, this isn't news at this point, but someone who claims to be all about free speech, he sure likes banning and silencing people.
Yeah. I also find this fraught when the CEO of Reddit, Steve Huffman, last year, he said that he was thinking about paywalling subreddits. And that is alarming to me because it's like making me itemize, audit, like try to figure out the worth of communities like Fauxmoi or Popheads. And considering how much free labor those mods have put into these places for years, it's like making me ask, how long do we have until Reddit gets Twittered or X'd? Like, is this our last good year?
The paywalling thing is interesting because it's actually something the Fauxmoi mod brought up when we spoke. And they mentioned that as something, because I was mentioning you guys are unpaid. They were saying, with something like paywalling, potentially some of that income or could go to them and compensate them for this work, which would be good. But then it's like you said, it's like, it's the same debate about, just like paywalls in journalism. It's like, what public information do we have a right to see and what subreddits are crucial to public interest? And I don't know, considering how many times I'm Googling like a weird mark on my skin and needing to see other people talking about it, or just like, getting help with trying to find like some niche bit of electronic equipment. Those are all of public interest to me. And I don't want them to do it. But also, what's the alternative? Because I want Fauxmoi to take a stand and not let public figures shut them down for having conversations. But I also personally cannot crowdfund their legal fees.
I know. I mean, another question that you are asking is like, is there a world where subreddits are considered a public service? I could definitely see that argument being made. Maybe Reddit wants to go down that venue and start basically paywalling the ones that like aren't or are. And that's like a whole conversation. But when we talk about the now of Reddit, like what is the alternative? I mean, I think the best option they have is literally like starting a new subreddit every time they get sued. I mean, look, Reddit is on their like 4th Luigi Mangione subreddit, okay? People do make sure to follow each new one that crops up, which I think is just a testament to like how badly people are willing to work to find a digital congregation.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure it happened before this, but this really makes me think of Tumblr because so often, I would do this too, people would kind of be like, I'm moving to a new Tumblr. I think it was a way of like shedding your past, but it would be like, come find me here, and then you'd go do it. So yeah, we are accustomed to doing that. And we also have no other choice if we don't want to just like accept this reality. And the point of coming after these things, silencing them, making us have to start over and over, the point is to make us give up.
Yeah. So it's either we give up or, hot idea, we meet up in person, okay? A Fauxmoi meetup, a little pop-up hosted by us, ICYMI.
Oh my gosh, Fauxmoi X ICYMI. It could happen. We've done the initial phone call. We've broken the ice. And this is kind of what you're saying is bringing back an actual town square. Like we just get all together in a field. We yell gossip at each other.
Yes.
And crucially, no one can screenshot it and send it to their lawyer.
Exactly. This could be fun. Maybe we bring in a DJ set by the Chainsmokers. Kate, would you pay for that with me, please?
Oh my gosh. I'll circle back after I'm done paying Fauxmoi's legal fees. And then whatever's left over, sure.
We'll pay the Chainsmokers.
We'll pay the Chainsmokers. Okay, that's the show. We'll be back in your feed on Saturday, so definitely subscribe. That way you never miss an episode. Please leave a rating and review in Apple or Spotify, and tell your friends about us. You can follow us on Twitter at ICYMI_pod, and you can always drop us a note at ICYMI@slate.com.
ICYMI is produced by Alexandra Botti, Kate Lindsay, and me, Candice Lim. Daisy Rosario is our senior supervising producer, and Hillary Fry is Slate's editor-in-chief. See you online.
Or at the Fauxmoi /ICYMI/Chainsmokers meetup.